Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London, and this morning I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Sweet Maxwell, Thomson, Reuters in their commercial series. The title of the book is Private Equity, Law and Practice. The 6th edition has been written by Darryl J Cooke. Elizabeth was the lead writer in this review, and she gave a title for her review, the definitive text on private equity, now in a new 6th edition, essential reading, especially if you don't know what a BIMBO is. And more will be revealed about that in a minute. Let's look at the book first. Here it is, green cover, hardback, there it is as the front, and then the spine, nothing on the back. The book itself runs to 400 odd pages, and the page numbers are by paragraph numbering. Let me just show you again. There's the index at the back, the front bit of the index there. It sets out everything very well. Then you've got the actual subject matter. There are a number of things actually at the back of the book, the various appendices. You can see appendices 4 and so forth there. If we go to the front of the book, you can see the front page, which is there. And then after that, there's the blurb about the book. Then you've got the preface to the new 6th edition for 2018. And that's from Darryl Cooke, and it sets out to explain what is new. Can I just show you the dedication? I like to show that. It's nice for the author to be able to do that because there's a lot of people involved in these books, the creating, writing of them. That's the content section. That's why the dedications are important. But what we've got here, contents there are 17 chapters and there are a total of 7 appendices. There's the table of cases. There's not a lot of case law in this area. Statutes, table statutes, it says, table of statutes, I think it should have said. Table of statutory instruments. I'm not being critical. Anyway, here's chapter 1. The role of private equity. There's paragraph numbering and so forth. You haven't got really any footnoting of any sort. It is quite useful just to read the beginning because that will set the scene very nicely for exactly what private equity is. And in fact, I'm going to explain what that is in the review, so I won't read it from the first paragraph, which actually sets the scene, I think, nicely. So what do we say about the book? Well, lawyers specialising in financial services and additionally corporate finance and due diligence advisors would be well advised to acquire this classic text on private equity. That is, if they haven't already. Now in the new 6th edition from Sweet Maxwell and Thomson Reuters, the book, as pointed out by author Darryl Cooke, quote, has now become more than just a legal text and is read across the world by advisors and financiers, and not just lawyers in the private equity field. That is a long way from where it first started. And remember, of course, that the book has been with us for some time. Not too dissimilar, you might say, is the evolution of the fairly typical start-up company, particularly in information technology, which of course many of us see developing today. It's a big area for growth. The modest beginnings, the expansion thanks to injections of capital, and if successful, the emergence onto the world stage as a global presence, excuse me, which very probably wouldn't have happened in the first place without private equity and or venture capital investment. That's the basis, really, of commercial success. The author is careful to define the difference between the two, so at least we know. Private equity and venture capital, he explains, and this is the definition if you like, describe equity investment in unquoted companies. Private equity is the term generally used in the United Kingdom to cover the industry as a whole, including buyouts, that's mainly management buyouts, and venture capital. However, venture capital is a subcategory covering the start-up to expansion stages of investment. And obviously you've got to start off, the venture being the aim of what you're doing, the little venture that you're taking on. Now, a cautionary note is interpolated here as the author warns that private equity transactions are some of the most complex transactions, and a point which is emphasised in a key chapter entitled Deal Maker. Here, hard-headed practical advice accompanies close and detailed examination of the moral and personal dimensions which create the most satisfactory deals, in which such considerations as trust, leadership and above all character and competence are paramount, especially when other people's money is involved. And the skills and attributes of the trusted advisor are stressed, primarily integrity and a strong focus on the commercial outcome. And many a heavyweight tome has been written on deal making. We know who some of the people have written, don't we, too? But this book contains guidance that truly shines, because it's a very competent, very professionally written book. With the care and clarity which characterises this book, the author offers an overview of private equity in all its diverse forms, identifying 3 main categories, as well as a varied range of other private equity investments. Representing around half of all private equity funds invested is the management buyout, the MBO, of which the management buy-in is an MBI, and it's an extension, although usually one that offers a lower investment return. Or when an MBI team joins forces with members of an existing management team within the organisation. Wait for it. The result is a BIMBO, buyout management buy-in. I got it wrong, didn't I? Buy-in management buyout, BIMBO. If you didn't know that before, now you do. And I'm glad, because it's in our title for the book review. One cannot help but agree with the author that the book has become more than a legal text read across the world by advisors and financiers, and not just lawyers in the private equity field. Note that this new edition contains a new chapter on preparing for an exit. That is the next stage of development in the life of a transaction. And I think that's again a very useful indication of where we're going with, certainly with private equity, because it's trying to give a complete picture of how the system works. So as a work of reference, the book certainly excels. Straightforward to read and convenient to use. It features 7 appendices, including a detailed 21-page glossary, so you'll never find yourself stuck for the meaning of a technical term. Tables are included of relevant cases, quite a small number, statutes and statutory instruments. So let me conclude by saying this. With a penultimate chapter on key issues for management, this is a book that should be in the library of every lawyer, and indeed anyone in the financial services community dealing with any aspect of private equity. And the date of publication is cited as at the 24th of August 2018. Let's just have one last look at it. There it is here, the spine, nothing on the back. Let's just find a few things of interest to you. The glossary I mentioned, which I didn't show, is glossary appendix 1, and you can see how it's structured. Now, the only thing I found difficult about this is that the actual words that form the glossary are actually in italics. It would have been nice to have had them emboldened, but I'm not criticising anything other than that. There's the paragraph numbering you can see at the sides, but there isn't actually the footnoting. So the paragraph numbering means that if you compare what you've got with both the contents at the front and the detailed index, you should find what you're looking for quite quickly. And investor control, of course, gone to the beginning, the middle bit. It's about shareholder protections, which I think is always very important in this area, because it's always a bit of a risk whenever you take any gamble of this nature. Anyway, I'd like to thank Darryl Cooke very much indeed, and all the people at Sweet Maxwell for producing this new work, a new edition of the work. I think it's an invaluable statement on where we are. So thank you to all concerned. Bye-bye.